Well, I'm sure you'll agree that it's not only staggering that a so-called protest group, Palestine Action, has allegedly claimed responsibility for breaking into an RAF base and damaging some of its aircraft, but further staggering that they actually managed to do so undetected and managed to get away without being arrested. But it won't be without consequences. This is the footage here as released and as claimed by the group, because they say that they've intervened in the Israeli conflict by decommissioning aircraft. The irony here, of course, is that according to MOD, these planes were not even used in any Israeli operations, so it was a flawed attempt anyway. And just very briefly, I owe a huge thank you to the 62,000 of you that have subscribed to my brand new channel in the last 2 weeks. And over 1 million of you have watched, if only everybody subscribed. But I'm really humbled, really grateful for you all subscribing and watching my new channel Off the Record with my personal views, because I hear you guys on this channel that said, please keep the politics off this channel, move them elsewhere, or don't do them at all, just keep this to law. That's what I intend to do, but there are issues that I want to talk about, so I will talk about those on my Off the Record channel for those of you that do want to hear it. So please do go there and subscribe, and thank you all for doing that. I really appreciate it. But now let's get back to this video. And it will not be without consequences, because now Yvette Cooper is expected to make a statement in Parliament as early as next week to say that this group, they're going to move now to debate and then vote. It will require legislation to proscribe this group. That's proscribe with an O, which will add this group to the list of banned terror organisations in the UK. But without speaking specifically about this case, because I don't want to jeopardize this particular prosecution if and when they find the people responsible, but very generally, you understand, I'll talk about the possible offences about breaking into an airbase and damaging aircraft and such things like that. There are a whole host of offences. Most of you will be familiar with trespass and aggravated trespass, and obviously certain types of trespass remain criminal offences where it's crown property and so on. Aggravated trespass, where you are there as a trespasser and then commit a further offence or do something else whilst on the property. There is also the very standard criminal damage. There's the more serious form of criminal damage when you do criminal damage with intent or you are reckless as to endanger life. And obviously, there are all sorts of other offences such as sabotage, interference with infrastructure, terrorism, and so on. So we'll look at a few of those in this video. But as I say, Yvette Cooper is expected to make a statement to move to ban this group in Parliament next week. But suffice to say, I think there's going to be a lot of questions asked in the meantime in the background, because this base, RAF Brize Norton, serves as a hub for UK strategic air support, refuelling, and so on, and is apparently surrounded with a large perimeter fence, security cameras, sensors in the area, manned security checkpoints, patrols around the base, etc. But obviously there's going to be a few people with a few questions to answer about this, to say the least. How did they manage to get into the base undetected in the first place? How did they manage to get close to the aircraft? And how did they manage to get away without being apprehended? In a statement by Palestine Action, supposedly claiming responsibility for this incident, they say, despite publicly condemning the Israeli government, Britain continues to send military cargo, fly spy planes over Gaza, and refuel US and Israeli fighter jets. But the irony is these military planes attacked were not even used, according to MOD, in any Israeli activities. Keir Starmer condemned the action as disgraceful. Downing Street generally has said that this incident has not blocked any planned aircraft movements or stopped any operations. Defence Secretary John Healey said that he's really disturbed by the incident and ordered investigation and the wider security review. Lord West, Labour Minister for UK Security and former head of the Royal Navy, said that this is extremely worrying. I think that's an understatement. Lord West says we cannot allow things like this to happen at all. They're really a problem. Kemi Badenoch says that this was deeply concerning. It is not lawful protest. It's a politically motivated criminality, and we must stop tolerating terrorist or extremist groups that seek to undermine our society. So let's take a look at some of the possible offences for offences of this nature. Generally, you understand. Section 128 of the Serious Organised Crime and Police Act of 2005. Rather than calling it aggravated trespass, it is the offence of trespassing on a designated site. So a designated site would obviously include Crown property and those that are in the interests of the United Kingdom. There is, of course, the standard aggravated trespass offence under Section 68 of the Public Order Act. There is also the Criminal Damage Act, whereby not just someone who, without lawful excuse, destroys or damages property belonging to another. There is the more serious offence, which is intending by the destruction of damage. There is also the more serious form of criminal damage under section 1(2)(b), which is intending by the destruction of the damage to endanger life of another or being reckless as to whether the life of another would be thereby endangered. Obviously, damaging an aircraft is being reckless as to whether life of another is being endangered. We also have the National Security Act 2023, which has a number of offences. This includes espionage, sabotage, etc. Under Section 4, entering a prohibited place for the purpose prejudicial to the UK. Under Section 12, sabotage, a person engages in conduct that results in damage to an asset. And an asset is anything that of any kind, tangible or intangible, and includes a particular real and personal property, electronic systems and information. Damage includes any kind of destruction, alteration, contamination, interference, loss of or reduction in access or availability, etc. So spray painting an aircraft would obviously come under lots of these: destruction, alteration, contamination, interference, loss or reduction of access, function, etc. But what's really interesting are the sentences available for these offences, because under Section 4, entering a prohibited place for a purpose prejudicial to the UK, you can get 14 years or a fine or both. And under Section 12, a person committing the offence of sabotage is liable on conviction on indictment to imprisonment for life, or a fine or both. So that puts the Section 4 offence, entering the prohibited place, on par with being a member of a terror organisation, which also has a sentence of 14 years on indictment. So let's take a brief look once again at what terrorism actually is, as defined under Section 1 of the Terrorism Act 2000. Terrorism is the use or the threat of action which involves serious violence against a person, involves serious damage to a property, endangers life other than the person committing the action, serious risk to health or safety of the public, is designed seriously to interfere with or seriously disrupt an electronic system, and that the use of the threat is designed to influence government or intimidate the public or a section of the public, and the use or the threat is made for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. And so, generally speaking, a group that carries acts such as infiltrating a military base and damaging aircraft to promote a cause and persuade the government, etc., all very generally, you understand, fit the bill for acts of terrorism, as well as the previous offences: aggravated trespass, entering a prohibited place, sabotage, and so on. But moving back to the question of how did this happen in the first place, I, for one, hope that this is a bit of a wake-up call to bolster the security of the UK, both within the UK and at the borders, because that is very much the discussion with illegal migration at the moment, with tens upon tens of thousands of illegal migrants entering the UK, each of whom may, we don't know, have similar intent. Shadow Armed Forces Minister Mark Francois told the BBC that any attempt to interfere with the engines of a large aircraft was totally reprehensible, adding that there's a serious question for the MOD to answer about how the protesters were able to gain access to what is supposed to be a secure RAF base. Now, I can say that I've been on military bases before. I've worked with military veterans to train on a military base before, and believe me, even getting in on invitation was not that easy. So this is a little bit strange. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. I, for one, think it's absolutely disgraceful, and we should absolutely do everything we can as a country to protect our infrastructure from all threats, both foreign and domestic. Please do like the video and subscribe. That helps my channel grow. And as always, thank you for watching.